Here it is, the big one. I'm gonna be going over all of my most used gear that I use in the production of my Apple Top Tech podcast, the Cultcast. 5 or 6 of you have been dying for me to do this video, and I said, okay, you've been very patient. Let's go ahead and give the people what they've been asking for. It's a little weird having this just hang over me, but we're gonna use this in just a second. I've tried out a lot of equipment over the years. I've spent a lot of money on all this stuff, and here's all the gear that I use day in, day out that I love, that works reliably, that doesn't cost a fortune. It's not gonna be cheap. I'm gonna go ahead and admit that right now, but it's gonna make you sound crisp, clean, professional. You're gonna love the way you sound. I guarantee it. Okay, first and foremost, you see this big mechanical schlong hanging here. We gotta talk about the microphone arm, because this is something I see people skimp on all the time, and you can certainly skimp in this area if you want to, but if you're gonna be podcasting with any sort of regularity, I definitely wouldn't. This is the Rode PSA-1 microphone. It's articulating. You can tell it kind of needs to be oiled a little bit, but you know, it's still working really well. You can move it all around, and it holds a normal sized microphone like this mic, which we'll be talking about here in just a sec. What I like about this is you can move it all around, obviously. You can move it right in front of your face. You can get the microphone exactly where you want it. If you have to make a big burp or a sneeze or something, you can just kind of like quickly move it away. It's really handy, and of course, this is critical to getting a good sound, because you want the mic to be positioned in a certain radius from your mouth. You don't want it to be too close or too far. And if you don't have something where you can move your mic around and you're doing it with your chair, it's just not gonna work. Now, a lot of people like to use these tiny little microphone stands like this. These are really popular because they're so cheap. You can definitely go this route, and if I have guests, I will often use something that's like this, but I wouldn't recommend using it on a daily basis, and here's why. Look, you're just kind of like, it just stays there, and now you're moving your body to get close to it. It doesn't make any sense. Also, if you're gonna be like hunched over it like this, oh, hey guys, yeah, let me talk to you about my podcast topic. Eventually, you're gonna get a sore neck, sore shoulders. This is not the way you wanna go if you're gonna be podcasting with any sort of regularity. So first things first, get yourself a really good microphone arm. It doesn't have to be this one, but this one's $100. It's one of the less expensive ones out there, and yet it's still very high quality, the Rode PSA-1. Now let's move on to microphones, because I know this is probably what you're all interested in. This is the legendary Electro Voice RE20. You will find these in radio stations all throughout the world. Lots of different podcasters use them too. This is my current go-to mic of choice because I just love the quality it adds to my voice. These were developed in 1968. They still are largely unchanged. They don't add a lot of distortion if you get really close to the mic. It doesn't change the quality of your voice, which most mics do. Now, I know you guys are gonna want some tests and hear how this microphone sounds. So I've got the audio piping into the video right now. This is the RE20 microphone, and this is the MKH416 shotgun microphone that I have right above me. This is also another legendary microphone. I don't use it for podcasting, I use it for video. I like to have really high quality mics, and these are two of the best in the biz. Now, as I'm switching back and forth, you'll be able to tell that the microphones, they sound quite different. I tend to like the sound of the RE20 for the podcasts. I can't even describe the way it makes my voice sound. It's airy and light and pleasant. It's just, hey, I'm Eric Finalizzer, your friendly neighborhood tech podcast. Welcome to the podcast. Sit back, have a drink, relax. We're going to tell you about each week's best Apple stories. Boom. You can just tell there's something about this microphone that makes your voice sound very friendly and pleasant. That's what people are paying for. But this microphone is only $400. Now, you may think that's expensive, but in the world of audio equipment, $400 is nothing for a piece of gear. This has become my go-to microphone. I really love this. I use this for the podcast day in and day out. But there is another mic that I have that I use sometimes that I was using before this mic that I like a whole lot. You might even recognize it because it's featured on a very popular podcast. Let's switch to that one now. Check, 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 check. Next up, we have the legendary. This is the SM7B. If you recognize it, it's probably because you watch the Joe Rogan podcast. He has this mic for himself and all of his guests. This, like the RE20, is a large diaphragm microphone. It doesn't need phantom power. It has great off-axis rejection, just like the RE20, which means if you get away from it and you start talking from over here, you're barely gonna be able to hear me. It's gonna sound like I'm far away. So it's great for rooms that maybe have some echo or aren't padded as well as they could be acoustically, so your voice might be bouncing around. You can get right up on this microphone, and it has a great sound to it. I think it makes my voice sound rich and creamy and exotic. You get that sexy Barry White flavor, I think, with this particular mic. Sometimes I feel like I actually like this mic a little bit more than the RE20, and I sometimes will go back and forth because I like them both so much, but these are both great mics to have on hands. This is another legendary mic. You'll see these used everywhere in podcasting, but also in music production. In fact, I think Michael Jackson recorded Thriller on a version of the SM7. I think it might have been the SM7A, perhaps. And of course, look at this mic. It's just blacked out, sleek, sexy. And it has a built-in articulating stand right here, so you can move it all around. It also has a pop filter right on the front, and the microphone module is also suspended inside of the mic so that it doesn't really feature any handling noise, or at least not very much, which is always a good thing when you're trying to get clean, crispy audio. Legendary microphone. You cannot go wrong with either the Electric Voice RE20 or the Shure SM7B. Now this next piece of gear is one I just introduced recently into my production line. This is the Rodecaster Pro podcasting mixer. I just did a full review about this exact piece of gear on my channel, so you can go and check that out if you want to get into all the nitty-gritty. I really like this thing a lot. This is what I use to mix my podcast. It's also what I use to record my podcast. This has multi-track recording, so it can record you and all your different guests, plus a USB channel, a mobile phone or a 3.5 millimeter channel, plus a Bluetooth channel. You can connect it to your phone or your iPad or anything with Bluetooth and record audio from that. So it's extremely versatile. It also has a built-in sound effects board right here. This also has really high quality preamps, which is something that I'm a real stickler about. If you don't have crispy grade A preamps that make your microphone sound good and clean and creamy and a little ethereal, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Next up is a piece of gear from an absolute legendary company, Sound Devices. Now, you may not be familiar with Sound Devices, but you've heard their work. Their products are used in Hollywood films all over the world. They're a mainstay in the industry, made in the good old USA. They make some of the best audio equipment out there. This is the Mix Pre 6 from Sound Devices, and this is one seriously good piece of equipment. It can accept up to 4 different XLR microphones at once. You can also connect it to a 3.5 millimeter audio jack, and it has USB input as well. It connects to your computer if you want to power it, or to a power brick if you want to do it that way. It also has a battery sled. You can put rechargeable batteries in here, you can put AA batteries in here, or they sell some battery packs that you can buy and attach to get even better battery life. I don't think you can get microphone preamps that are better than this unless you want to spend thousands of dollars. It's also really lightweight. This thing is meant to be carried around. It's built like an absolute tank, all metal design. You can mount this underneath a camera if you wanted to and use it to capture audio in some type of video production. You can also just have it at your desk and use it to record a podcast. This also acts as a USB audio interface, so you can connect to your computer and you can record audio from people via USB, or you can have them recorded all in line here with 4 different microphone XLR inputs. This thing has a touchscreen on it, so you can use that to control all the different attributes of this device, and it records multi-track audio, and it has a SD card slot built into the back right beneath this battery sled right here, so you have easy access to your recordings. Now, quality don't come cheap. This little mixer right here is $900. Look, you're gonna have to pay for quality if you want it. You can get some cheap, crappy preamps that are gonna make your voice sound hoarse like you've been smoking cigarettes for the last 30 years, or you can get something like this, the best of the best, the beautiful of the bunch. It's gonna make your voice sound creamy and delicious. And that's what you want when you're making an audio podcast. You wanna have your voice sounding real good. Okay, now this last piece is something that's not gonna apply to everybody, but if you record your podcast online, meaning that the people that you're recording with are not in the same room as you, you're gonna need to connect with those people in some way to record your podcast. Here's how I have learned to do it. Don't use Skype. Never use Skype. Skype is a horrible podcasting tool. It will give you nothing but problems. It tries to control your microphone volumes on your behalf, so your volume inputs are constantly going up and down. It's not built for podcasting. It actually introduces little audio noises to make it sound like you're on a normal telephone line. That's something that's built in. You don't want that stuff in your podcast. And you're gonna have a ton of connections issues with Skype, so just don't do that. Don't try it. I did it for years and it doesn't work very well. The tool I use is called Cast. It's a web app that you can use. You have to be using Chrome or a Chrome-based browser to use it. It's actually built as a full podcasting solution, so you can use it to record your podcasts. You can also use it to edit your podcasts. But I don't use the editing functions at all. I edit everything in Logic using my MacBook Pro because the editing functions in Cast, they're way too basic to actually be useful. Unless you want to do like minimal editing, almost no editing at all, then it might work for you. But the reason I'm willing to pay 10 bucks a month for Cast, and the reason I keep using it, is because it gives you really clean audio and it will give you a audio track for every single guest that you have on the podcast. Here's how it works. You log into Cast, you set up a virtual room, and then Cast gives you a little URL that you can give to your guests, and then they just go to the URL, poof, they're in the room, and when everyone's there, you just click the record button, and now you have a recording going, and Cast will actually record all of those files locally on those users' machines and then constantly be uploading those files. If anything crashes, you don't lose the full audio file, you just lose them, and then the recording just stops right there. It's been a reliable way to record my podcast. It makes it really easy to bring on guests. They don't really have to know what they're doing. You don't have to say, hey, can you sign into Skype and make sure you start your own recording on your own machine so we can get your recording. No. They don't have to do any of that nonsense. You can just do it all for them. Now, once you're done with your podcast, you just hit the stop record button and boom, baby, you're ready to import those audio files from Cast and you'll be ready to go. Import everything to Logic, edit to your heart's content just like this, and then poof, export, and your audio is gonna sound crispy, crystal clear. One more note about podcasting, you definitely wanna record with multi-track, meaning you wanna have an individual file for every audio source. One for you, one for your guests, one for any other audio that you're piping in. Here's why. People are gonna be making all sorts of weird sounds during the podcast. They're breathing heavy, they're rubbing their beards against their mic, someone rings the doorbell. The only way to dial those noises out and all the ambient noises out is to have individual control of every single person's audio track. So when I'm going through and editing, if you're not speaking, I drop your audio volume down so that we can't hear you farting, burping. We can't hear your iPhone notifications going off. We only want to hear the noises that we want to hear, which are the people talking. There you have it. There are all of my secrets that I've learned from podcasting over the last 7+ years. Hopefully that helped you out. If it did, make sure you drop a like on this video, subscribe to get more content just like this. If you have a question, I might answer it. Just drop it down below in the comments section. My name is Erfan Elijah, Gadget Hunter. I'm on the prowl, looking for the best gadgets and tech. I'll be back with even more content just like this. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys